أتاك عنه قديم، وهو عندي كثير، وهو عليك سهل يسير. اللهم إن عفك عن ذنبي وتجاوزك عن خطيئتي وصفحك عن ظلمي وسعي وعمدي أطمعني في أن أسألك ما لا أستوحبه من الذي رزقتني من رحمتك وأريتني من قدرتك وعرفتني من إجابتك، فصرت أدعوك آمنا وأسألك مستأنسا لا خائفا ولا جلا مدلا عليك فيما قصدت فيه إليك، فإن أبطأ عني اعتبت بجهلي عليك، ولعل الذي يبطأ عني هو خير لي لعلمك بعاقبة الأمور. فلما مولا كريما أصبر على عبد اللئيم منك علي يا رب، إنك تدعوني فأولي وتتحبب إلي فأتبغض إليك وتتودد إلي فلا أقبل منك، كأن لي تطول عليه فلم يمنعك ذلك من الرحمة لي والإحسان إلي والتفضل علي بجودك وكرمك، فارحم عبدك الجاهل وجد عليه بفضل إحسانك، إنك جواد كريم. الحمد لله مالك الملك مجري الفلك مسخر الرياح فالق الإصباح ديان الدين رب العالمين. الحمد لله على حلمه بعد علمه، والحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرته، والحمد لله على طول أناته في غضبه وهو قادر على ما يريد. الحمد لله خالق الخلق باسط الرزق فالق الإصباح ذي الجلال والإكرام والفضل والإنعام، الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. الحمد لله الذي ليس له منازع يعادل ولا شبيه يشاكل ولا ظهير يعاضد، قهر بعزته العزى وتواضع لعظمته العظمى فبلغ بقدرته ما يشاء. الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أنادي ويستر علي كل عورة وأنا أعصي ويعزم النعمة علي فلا أجازي. فكم من موهبة هنية قد أعطاني وعظيمة مخوفة قد كفاني وبهجة مونقة قد أراني، فأثني عليه حامدا وأذكره مسبحا. الحمد لله الذي لا يهتك حجابه ولا يغلق بابه ولا يرد سائله ولا يخيب وابله. الحمد لله الذي يؤمن الخائفين وينجي الصالحين ويرفع المستضعفين ويزع المستكبرين، يهلك ملوكا ويستخلف آخرين. والحمد لله قاسم الجبارين مبين الظالمين مدرك الهاربين، نكال الظالمين سريح المستصرخين موزع حاجات الطالبين معتمد المؤمنين. الحمد لله الذي من خشيته ترعد السماء وسكانها وترجف الأرض وعمالها وتموج البحار ومن يسبه يسبح في غمراتها. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. الحمد لله الذي يخلق ولم يخلق ويرزق ولا يرزق ويطعم ولا يطعم ويميت الأحياء ويحيي الموتى وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك، أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتتحننت وسلمت على أحد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسلك وصفتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك. اللهم صل على علي أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين، عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم. وصل على الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة سيدة النساء العالمين. وصل على سبتي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المحدي، حججك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. اللهم وصل على ولي أمرك القائم المؤمل والعدل المنتظر وحفظه بملائكتك المقربين وأيده بروح قدس يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعله الداعي إلى كتابك والقائم بدينك، استخلفه في الأرض كما استخلفت الذين من قبله، مكن له دينه الذي ارتضيته ولا أبدله من بعد خوفه أمنا، يعبدك لا يشرك بك شيئا. اللهم أعزه وأعزز به وانصره وانتصر به وانصره نصرا عزيزا وافتح له فتحا يسيرا واجعل له من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم أظهر به دينك وسنة نبيك حتى لا يستخفي بشيء من الحق مخافة أحد من الخلق. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله وتذل بها النفاق وأهله وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيله وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما عرفتنا من الحق فحملنا واشعب به صدعنا وارتق به فتقنا وكسر به قلتنا وأعزز به ذلتنا وأغن به عائلنا وأخذ به عن مغرمنا واجبر به فقرنا وسد به خلتنا ويسر به عسرنا وبيض به وجوهنا وفك به يسرنا وأنجح به طلبتنا وأنجز به مواعيدنا واستجب به دعوتنا وأعطنا به سؤلنا وبلغنا به من الدنيا والآخرة آمالنا وأعطنا به فوق رغبتنا يا خير المسؤولين وأوسع المعطين. اشف به صدورنا وأذهب به غيظ قلوبنا واهدنا به لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. وانصرنا به على عدوك وعدونا إله الحق يا أمين. اللهم إنا نشكو إليك فخذ نبينا صلواتك عليه وآله وغيبة ولينا وكسرة عدونا وقلة عددنا وشدة الفتن بنا وتظاهر الزمان علينا. فصل على محمد وآله وأعنا على ذلك بفتح منك تعجله وبزر تكشف ونصر تعز وسلطان حق تظهر ورحمة منك تجللناها وعافية منك تلبسناها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أسألك أن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر من الأمر المحتوم في الأمر الحقيم من القضاء الذي لا يرد ولا يبدل أن تكتبني من حجاج بيتك الحرام المبرور حجهم المشكور سعيهم المغفور ذنوبهم المكفر عن سيئاتهم وأن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر أن تطيل عمري في خير وعافية وتوسع فيه رزقي وتجعلني ممن تنتصر به لدينك ولا تستبدل بي غيري. أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان أو يطلع الفجر من ليلة هذه ولك قبلي تبيعة أو ذنب تعذبني عليه. إلهي وقف السائلون ببابك ولاذ الفقراء بجنابك ووقفت سفينة المساكين على ساحل بحر جودك وكرمك يرجون الجواز إلى ساحة رحمتك ونعمتك. إلهي إن كنت لا ترحم في هذا الشهر الشريف إلا من أخلص لك في صيامي وقيامي فمن لمذنب المقصر إذا غرق في بحر ذنوبه وأساه أقسامه. إلهي إن كنت لا ترحم إلا المطيعين فمن للعاصين، وإن كنت لا تقبل إلا من العاملين فمن للمقصرين. إلهي ربح الصائمون وفاز القائمون ونجى المخلصون ونحن عبيدك المذنبون، فارحمنا برحمتك واعتقنا من النار بعفوك واغفر لنا ذنوبنا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم ادخل على أهل القبور سرور، اللهم اغن كل فقير، اللهم اشبع كل جائع، اللهم اكس كل عريان، اللهم اقض دين كل مدين، اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب، اللهم رد كل غريب، اللهم فك كل أسير، اللهم أصلح كل فاسد من أمور المسلمين، اللهم اشف كل مريض، اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك، اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك، اللهم اقض عنا الدين وأغننا من الفقر إنك على كل شيء قدير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا علي يا عظيم يا غفور يا رحيم، أنت الرب العظيم الذي ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير، وهذا شهر عظمته وكرمته وشرفته وفضلته على الشهور، وهو الشهر الذي فرضت صيامه علي، وهو شهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان، وجعلت فيه ليلة القدر وجعلتها خيرا من 1000 شهر، فيا ذا المن ولا يمن عليك، من علي بفكاك رقبتي من النار، في من تمن علي وادخل الجنة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
नारे तकबीर, नारे रिसालत, नारे हैदरी, हैदरी, हैदरी। बराए खुशनूदी इमाम ज़माना बुलंद तरीन सलावत। बराए खुशनूदी 14 मासूमीन बुलंद तरीन सलावत। बराए खुशनूदी जनाब सैयदा सलामुल्लाह अलैहा बुलंद तरीन सलावत।
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على خاتم النبيين والسيد المرسلين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما على الإمام المنتظر وحجة الله الثاني عشر ابن العسكري المنتظر ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم القرآن الحكيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. صلوات. We are into the 11th night of our discussion. You know what it means to be in the 11th night? It means in the blink of an eye, 10 days have gone. 1/3 of the entire month is finished. This is exactly how our life goes. You want to see how your life goes? Take out your phone, go into your cloud. Take out your pictures of 10 years ago and you will see. 10 saal ho gaye hum aise the. This is how the life finishes. We have no option except to take our life by the horns and make sure we sort our lives out. Otherwise, suddenly you're sitting and you look up and you see Malakul Maut is over there. Hai chalo. Then it's Wawela. Everybody is not Sheikh Abdul Karim Hairi, the Muassis, the founder of Hawza Ilmiya Qum. About him it is said, when he was Sheikh Abdul Karim Hairi, Ayatullah Al-Udma, Sheikh Abdul Karim Hairi, he was the Muassis, he was the founder of Hawza Ilmiya Qum. This is Sheikh Tusi was the founder of Hawza Ilmiya of Najaf. Says when he died, his soul was being taken. Kya bataya aapko? When he passed away, his soul was taken. Malakul Maut was taking it. At that time, and he is narrating it himself. से उनकी रूह को जो है मलकुल मौत लेकर जा रहे थे कि एक मर्तबा शेख अब्दुल करीम हायरी ने कहा कि हमने देखा कि हमारा गुजर जो हो रहा था, पास में मौला हुसैन खड़े हैं. तो एक मर्तबा he says, I turned to Imam Hussain and says, Mawla, I have not done anything for Islam. This is an Ayatullah al-Udma. कोई वॉलंटियर की बात नहीं हो रही है मदरसे मस्जिद की या मदरसे की. He's saying, Mawla, I have not done anything for Islam. Give me time. थोड़ी सी मोहलत दीजिए, हम जो है वो कुछ ऐसा काम करना चाह रहे हैं कि आप जो है वो खुश हो जाइएगा. बस थोड़ी मोहलत दीजिए. He says, this is people don't understand what is wilayat taqweeni of our Masumin. He is saying कि एक मर्तबा when I said this, yeah, Imam Hussain turns to Malakul Maut and says, Ya Israel, return his soul back. Send his soul back. Because we want him to do something for Islam. कहते हमारी रूह फिर से जो है जिस्म में गई, हम जिंदा हुए We set up Qum, Ayatullah's Ozmas coming out from now Nagif and Qum. देखिए ये है, लेकिन हर कस के मौका नहीं मिल सकता. कहाँ हमारे यहाँ, इसलिए तो हम बार बार कहते हैं अल्लाहुम्मा रज़ुक़ना शफ़ाअतल हुसैन फ़िल आखिरह व ज़ियारतहु फ़िद दुनिया. तो समझने की बात ये है कि जो है, we have to make whatever use of time that we have got to make the best of it. Yes. Continuing with our discussion of Surah Al-Kahf, Surah number 18, we had reached this point. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahnu naqussu alayka naba'ahum bil-haq. We are now narrating to you their story bil-haq, which is the truth. Innahum fityatun amanu bi rabbihim wa zidnahum hudan. These were individuals who believed in God, and we increased their iman. This was the time when we had talked about the Daqyanus and those 6 people coming out, meeting the shepherd with the dog, and we had reached the point where now they have gone into the cave. They begin to rest. Riwayat tell us, Riwayat of Amirul Mu'mineen, Riwayat of Sadiq Ali Muhammad alayhimus salatu wassalam. They go, they sleep inside, and then Allah says, in verse number 9, وَضَرَبْنَا عَلَىٰ آذَانِهِمْ, we covered the years, we made them go to sleep. 300 years, 309 years, we said it'll come, and this entire event now stops over here. But this is the event that stops in terms of process. But for our understanding, we still need to go forward and understand a few things. Understand these. This is one example that I mentioned yesterday in the majlis, in the Wafat majlis of Bibi Khadija, the trade with God. God says, you give me something and I will give you something. But the difference will be, you will give according to your ability, I will give according to my ability. They gave their iman to him. I'm giving our love and iman to you. We are ministers, we are wazirs, we've got power, we've got position, we've got status, we've got people running around us. Labbaik, Ya Sayyidi, tell us what you want to do. All of them thrown aside for you. Allah says, you've done that? Now you see what I'm going to do. I'm going to put your khulus and ikhlas and you into the Quran. Every single individual who says Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah will read about you as to your khulus and ikhlas towards me. Qayamat tak jo hai wo Quran mein dal diya. This is how I will respond to you. And this is similar to, if you have a look to what happened with Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam. When Zulaykha tried to, you know the story, yeah? Then Zulaykha tried to attract him. And she attests, Quran says in Hazrat Yusuf, in Surah Yusuf, Zulaykha says, after she tries to attract him and then all that incident takes place, she goes to her lady and said, she acknowledges it because she's the wife of the king of Misr. She said, لَقَدْ رَاوَدْتُهُ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. I tried to attract him ala nafsihi, against his wishes. فَاسْتَعْصَمَ. He held himself back. He protected himself. Then, she says, وَإِن لَمْ يَفْعَلْ مَا آمُرُهُ. If he does not act as I want him to do, because I want certain things from him. Kids have to bolne ka aap samajh rahe. Says, I want certain things. In lam yaf'al ma amaruhu. Whatever I want, if he doesn't give me, la yusjananna. He will be put into prison. Wala yakunan min as-saghirin. And he will be humiliated. This threat was given by Zulaykha to Yusuf. Give me what I want, or I will make sure you go into prison and you are humiliated. At that point of time, Yusuf turns to God and says, Rabbi as-sijnu ahabbu ilayya mimma yad'unani ilayhi. God, prison for me. She's warning me for prison. Dhamki de rahi ki I will put you into prison. Rabbi as-sijnu ahabbu ilayya. At this point of time, she's asking me to do this. She's threatening me to do this. I have a choice to make. For me, the prison is more muhib and mahbub to me than go doing what she wants me to do. I would rather go to the prison and be your abd rather than stay with her and disobey you. Many times, have you heard about Ibn Sirin, the science of dreams? Yeah. Ibn Sirin was the greatest in the minus the Masumin and Salman and the likes. He was the greatest proponent of interpretation of dreams, Ibn Sirin. बहुत किताब मारूफ है, and its name is also Ibn Sirin. You can check it out. Science of interpretation of dreams. बहुत ही दकीक science है ये. It's a very complex science. So let me give an example. You see, for example, somebody falling down. How will you interpret it? It's so complicated. ये सब जो है वो हरकस हरकस कहता कि हम इसकी ताबीर करते हैं. This is the ताबीर. This is the interpretation of dreams. Don't fall prey to it. It's so complex. Sorry, it's so complex that if you see a dream with wudu, it means something else. If you see that same incident without wudu, it means something else. If you see in the later part of the night, it means something else. If you see in the early part of the night, it means something else. If you see it in winter, it means something else. If you see it in summer, it means something else. What it means is that you can't study this. How many events are you going to give in terms of categories? 10,000 million things you can see. You're not going to classify. ये अगर जो आपने रात के टाइम पे देखा 1 बजे तो इसका मतलब ये है, सवेरे 5 बजे देखा तो इसका मतलब ये है, क्या तुमने वुजू से देखा, क्या तुमने जो है वो वुजू बगैर देखा, कि गर्मियों में देखा, क्या? It doesn't, you can't. This science is coming as a gift from God. ये खुदा की तरफ से मिन लदुन, इल्म लदुन्नी है. You don't learn, it is gifted. You can't learn. How can you learn? So many permutations and combinations, you can't learn. How can you learn billions of combinations? You can't. It comes from God. You know how Ibn Sirin got this gift? Anytime, go into forget about Islam, you go into the Orientalists, you go into the West, into the academia. The master of the science of interpretations, Ibn Sirin. You know how he got it? पता है आपको कैसे चला? ये exactly हम लोग कह रहे हैं ना, trade करना है. This is your age to do trade with God. Tell him, I am sacrificing something. You then give me something. देखिए इब्न सीरीन ने क्या किया. इब्न सीरीन के सिलसिला में वाक़या है कि he was very handsome. आपकी उम्र का था 24-25. Extremely handsome, very good looking. He had a textile shop. कपड़े को जो है बेचता था, होता है ना. So he would sell, and usually when these things come, ladies come to buy. आपको तो पता है पाकिस्तान in Bombay में जो है, you have these cloth stores, ladies come. This one particular lady came to buy, and she was infatuated with his beauty. Just like Zulaikha. She started to make machinations and plans. How do I get him? And he was a muttaqi person. He was very pious. 24, 25, extremely good looking, extremely handsome, but still he was being held back by taqwa. So he would not give responsibility. She would try her, they want to use certain words on the mimbar, but he would not fall prey. Kya kiya jaye? She wanted to get him home. So she decides on a trick. She goes to him, she says, Ibn Sirin, I want to buy cloth. And she gives order for a massive amount of cloth. Bahut zyada. So he says, okay, now how are you going to take it? He says, Ibn Sirin, I don't have anything. Could you drop it off in the house? So he says, yeah, I will drop it off at your house. Now the reason was, so he comes home. As he comes home, he says, can you put it into that inside room? He goes to put it into the inside room. She locks the door. Locks the door. So what's happening? Ibn Sirin, look, this is the situation. I want you. He says, Ma'adallah, I don't do this. This is haram. I can't. I don't. You have to do it. If you don't, I will shout out that you are here molesting my dignity. You have two options. Either face the consequences. I will shout out to the people, he's entered the house, he's locked the door, and he's trying to molest me. Or you come willingly. Either way, you have to come to me. Willingly, unwillingly. Willingly, there'll be no problems. Unwillingly, you'll have a problem. Ibn Sirin in trouble. He's turning to God, what do I do? See, when you take one step, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. If somebody walks in our path, we show him the way. A certain pilot light struck into him. He says, okay, fair enough. I'm coming. Let's do it willingly. So she's happy, mashallah. Okay, I'm making arrangement. The door is locked. So what do I do? So okay, you make preparations. Can I use the washroom, please? See how people are, yeah. Koi cheez khuda muft nahi deta. Nothing comes for free. You give me something, I give you something. But again, that same sentence, you give according to your level. I give according to my level. He goes to the bathroom, he's saying, kya kiya jaye, kya kiya jaye? And then he decides on a trick. Ajib this is. He defecates. He takes the defecation, he takes the feces and puts it on his face. And smelling all over. Dirty. Feces, defecation, he puts it on his face. Comes out, I'm ready. You know, when Zulaikha wanted to entice Yusuf, you know the arrangement the Riwayat says that she had done? That entire room was filled with mirrors. And the ambience, environment, you know, ambience, Ali, you do fire this thing, event man. Ambience makes it builds up. You see these pictures in discos, the psychedelic lights. What are the psychedelic lights for? Ambience, environment. It brings up that passion, the josh. She had built it up that way. Mirrors all over, lighting. And इंसान तो जो है पहली बात वो आधा तो जो उसी में खत्म हो जाए. You just lose your protection there and then only with what you see over there. This person comes over there, ambience is not there. He said, what's this? He says, come on, I'm ready. Or who would be ready? She gets upset, what have you done? He says, but this is what I've done. Just get out of the house. He gets out in the same state, goes home, takes a shower. Din ka jo hai wo kaam khatam kiya. He goes to sleep at night. That night he goes to sleep. When he gets up in the morning, he becomes Ibn Sirin. Night he goes to sleep. Next morning, he's thinking, I'm in a different state. I'm understanding things that I've never understood before. I'm able to comprehend things I've never been able to understand before. Suddenly I saw this dream, it means this. Somebody's talking, I saw this dream, I know the meaning of it. One night, God says, you did this to protect your sanctity upon my orders. That was what you could do. I'm going to do you something. I'm going to give you knowledge. Min ladunna, from ourselves, you will become known as the best exponent of the interpretation of dreams in the Islamic world and the non-Islamic world. Okay, this is what is very important. And this is what these people did. They're very simple. Yusuf says, this prison for me is more important than falling prey to what they're calling me. One sacrifice, God says, fair enough. We agree to that. The question over here is, and this is something very important I need to... They lived for 300 years, 309 years, and I keep mentioning these two numbers. There's a reason for it. There's a very zarif nuqta. There's a very subtle point that I want to come once we come to that. Inshallah, we've got today and then 3 more nights and Wiladat of Imam Hassan and then Khuda Hafiz to you. One of the ways that Islam, that on numerous occasions Allah wants to tell the people is that every time you read my book, you read that Inna Allah ala kulli shayin qadir. These are not stories. There are times I will show you my qudrat. One instance was that incident of the cow of Bani Israel. You remember? That murderer dies and then Musa says, get a cow and then touch the part of that cow with the dead person. That is qudrat of God. कि कोई इंसान मर जाता है, follow our etiquette and we will make that person come back to life. This is another example of Allah telling you, look, I'm not just inna Allah ala kulli shayin qadir on the books. I will show it and do it to you. Individuals alive for 309 years, I will make them go to sleep without food, without water, without any nutrition, no place to defecate, no place to urinate, nothing available to them. I will make them live for 309 years and then make them come back to life, and you will still see them alive. This is the qudrat of God. और इसी पर जो है वो एक चलते हुए बात को, if somebody can live for 309 years without food and water, then why can somebody not live with food and water for 1200 years? If somebody can live, you know what I'm talking about? Who? Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. अगर 6 नफर साथ में शेपर्ड को मिला के 7 नफर 309 साल तक विदाउट फूड एंड वाटर जिंदा रह सकते हैं, तो क्या इमाम जमाना फूड और वाटर के साथ, ग़िज़ा के साथ जो है 1200 साल जिंदा नहीं रह सकते? These are all parts that we need to understand. Don't be defensive in your religion. Don't be apologetic. You don't have to be defensive. You know you're on the haqq. If you're on the haqq, then don't be defensive. Anyway, In those days, there were two reasons why this particular incident is given so much importance. One is because of what they did. They did trade with God. God says, because you've done something, I like it so much, I'm going to put you into the Quran. Second is to show the power of God. Look, I'm ala kulli shay'in qadir, I can do it. Without food and water, you can't live. जब हम 18 घंटे के रोजे होते थे ना यूके में, we would have problems. The dehydration भूख ज्यादा नहीं लगती थी, but it's too long. The body demands food. कहते 18 घंटे जो है फूड बगैर नहीं रह सकते, हम तो हमको 300 साल तक रखेंगे विदाउट फूड. कुदरत है हमारी. That's point number 2. Point number 3, जब Rasul Khuda, when he came to the Quraysh, yeah, one of the problems that they had was understanding the concept of resurrection. Qiyamah ka mafhoom jo hai, they were not able to understand. How is it possible that somebody who dies is now resurrected? Forget about somebody who's died, somebody whose flesh have been eaten, only skeletons remain. How can he come back to life? Forget about skeletons. The skeleton is gone here and there. Only pieces of bones remain. How are they able to come back to life? Forget about bones. These bones after some time become brittle. You take a bone which is of 25, 30 years and you crumble it in your hand, it becomes powder. How can this thing that has become powder be made back to man? It was a concept that was just not going to their minds. They were not able to understand. And that is why when you read Surah Yasin on Shab-e-Jummah, وَضَرَبَ لَنَا مَثَلًا قَالَ مَنْ يُحْيِي الْعِظَامَ وَهِيَ رَمِيمٌ. There are 3 in this thing, names given. One is Ubay ibn Makhnaf, second is Umayyah ibn Makhnaf, and third is As ibn Wa'il. One of these 3 individuals. He was walking into the Biyaban, into the deserts. He sees a big piece of a skeleton, the bone of an individual, probably part of a shoulder or a thigh. He sees, oh, this is a part of man. Very happy. I'm going to take this and show this to Muhammad. You're saying every time, إِذَا وَقَعَتِ الْوَاقِعَةِ إِذَا وَقَعَتِ الْوَاقِعَةِ. This man is going to be resurrected. This bone, how is this bone going to come back into man? So they had a problem. Okay, then you had the last verses. Yeah. وَنَسِيَ خَلْقَ ضَرَبَ لَنَا مَثَلًا وَنَسِيَ خَلْقَ. He forgot. Who created him in the first instance? When you were not there, we created you. Now the bone is there. Is it more difficult to create you? It is more difficult to create from non-existence, but if some remnants still remain, you can still make it. You know, sperm banks, what happens? Sperm banks, you take sperms, you hold it, you freeze it, and then you make a new individual. When something is not there, we made you. Then when something is there, it becomes easier to make you again. So this was to show to the people, look, you are doubting the resurrection is possible because 309 years is as good as dead. 309 years sleeping is as good as dead. We will bring you back to life. Now let's move forward and you'll find some very interesting points come. In ayah number 14 it says, وَرَبَطْنَا عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ إِذْ قَامُوا. So they go into the grave, and now we're just rewinding. We'll have to keep rewinding and forwarding so that we can come back to various points that we want to discuss. So they go outside, there's a river flowing, they drink water, they're tired, they wash the legs are bruised, the blood is there, they wash the blood, they drink water, satiated, they come in and say, tired. We need to go to sleep. But before they go to sleep, there's a little mukalama that takes place, a discussion takes place. That discussion God has put into this verse and the next verse. وَرَبَطْنَا عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ إِذْ قَامُوا. It says they decided that they wanted to remain with us. Look at the translation. Can you read it? Yeah, we strengthened their hearts with patience. I'm not translating myself for fear that if I translate, I might use certain words that's not there in the translation, then you'll get confused. We strengthened their hearts with patience. So they said, we want to stay on firm on God's path. God says, وَرَبَطْنَا عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ. We strengthened their hearts. This issue about strengthening the hearts is something which is referred to in Islamic terminology as divine help. Help by means of ghaib. Numerous occasions in history when individuals have stepped out to take the path of God and they found themselves inferior to their opponents, God has stepped inside. Said, we have come to help you. We will come to help you. At times, people will take the help. At times, people will not take the help. You know what happened in Karbala? When Karbala, the jinn by the name of Za'far, He came to Imam Hussain alayhi salam. We've got the entire community of jinn. We were willing to help you. Tell us and we will fill up this entire thing. Imam said, Zafar, come here. By the way, I read and won this thing in tradition. This Zafar jinn lived from the time of Karbala and he died, you know when? He died at the time of Ayatollah Burujardi. He met Ayatollah Burujardi. He talked to Ayatollah Burujardi. He said, I have seen what happens in Karbala. And that is why ulama say, जब Karbala का वाक़ा जिक्र होता है, मसाइब होते हैं, he would sit and he would weep. And जैसे जो है वो जाकिर और आलिम जो है वो मसाइब पढ़ता है, this Zafar jinn says, Saddaqta, you're telling the truth. But then he would cry and say one more sentence. He says, yes, you're telling the truth. This is what happened. This is what happened. I saw it myself. I spoke to Imam Hussain. हमने देखा ये आंखों देखा वाक़या है हमारे लिए. Saddaqta, yes, what you're saying is correct. What you're saying is true. But जो भी आप बयान करते हैं मंजर और हकीकत इससे कहीं ज्यादा दिल खराश, इससे कहीं ज्यादा दिल हजीन. It's much more tragic than what you can even expand. I've seen it. But that's a different issue. So जो है वो आपको पता है जब वो जाफर गए थे और कहे कि हमारी पूरी कौम जो है आपको मदद करने के लिए तैयार है, तो what did Imam Hussain say? Zafar, come here, I'll show you something. You think you're helpless? The world is at our disposal. The elements of the universe are at our disposal. He said, come here, I'll show you. Then he shows, look to the Riwayat says, he looks through it and he says, on the head of every Yazidi soldier was an angel with a sword in the hand. इससे ये हमारी फौज है, तुम तुम्हारी फौज को क्या हमारी मदद के लिए लाओगे? परवरदिगार आलम ने जो है, I just have to make an इशारा करना है मुझे. And in a second, the 30,000 forces, the heads will be on the ground. This is our force. I don't need your help. But today, my blood has to be shed if Islam has to be saved. Saving me today will not save Islam. The blood has to be shed today of mine for Islam to be saved. So, गैब की जो है वो मदद परवरदिगार आलम के पास जो है वो. Look at the incident of Badr. In Badr, in Surah Anfal, verse number 9, 10, 11, 12. ये तीन चार जो थे वो 1000 की तादाद में थे. But that was not just the only. They had come for battle. The Muslims had not gone for battle. They were not armed to the teeth. So numerical superiority higher. At that stage, if you were fighting, you would have been finished. We sent a light sleep upon you. Nu'as. Nu'as is the sleep that is very light, but very pleasant. कम मुद्दत की है, but very powerful, gives you complete refreshment. Sleep, light sleep, but when you get up in a short time, you're invigorated. This is what we did to you. Second, you are having shortage of water. We send from the skies water. This is divine intervention. In that region, you don't get water coming every Tom, Dick and Harry day. That day, we made sure the clouds come and send down the water. Listen to Surah Anfal. Go read it afterwards. And then he says, you know what? Because you were a little frightened, there are 1,000, we are 313, 3 times that of number that we've got. Armed to the tooth, we've got a sword, we've got probably a few arrows. They've come armed to the teeth with dharam and the coat of armor and XYZ and everything. So the war started with Saddam, which eventually culminated in the elimination of Saddam, the capture of Saddam. The first 3 days, what happened? You remember? You're very small at that time. I distinctly remember that first 3 to 4 days they were referred to as shock and awe. बड़े जो है वो याद होगा. They say it's a tactic of shock and awe. What they did was, Saddam was very distinct. He's had a 500,000 army, massive army. What they did was, the Americans, they said, we're not dealing with boots on the ground. What takes care is the aerial superiority. That's what Israel has with Hezbollah, aerial superiority. So we take out the aerial superiority. In the first 3 days of war, thousands of cruise missiles, not just cruise missiles, ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles. These missiles are very, very powerful. These missiles were sent out from the missile destroyers in the sea outside on the borders of Saudi Arabia. These missiles would be launched with such precision, they would take off from their aircraft carriers, the frigates. It would cross the entire of Iraq, the whole country of Iraq. It will enter into Iraq, the whole country of Saudi Arabia, enter into Iraq, go into Baghdad, identify the building, identify the floor, identify the window, and bang the window. This is what they call smart bombs. These are guided precision missiles guided by GPS systems. They launched an absolute avalanche of these. In the first, the hangars, they hit the planes, they hit the ammunitions, they hit the depots, and they call it shock and awe. इस तरह जो है blitzkrieg कर देना कि एक इंसान जो है थक जाए. You've seen these SWAT teams when they want to enter into houses to arrest. You know, one of the things that they do is, have you noticed it? When they take this entire SWAT team and they want to arrest somebody, they knock at the door. They don't say, Salaam alaikum, hello, good morning, we have come to arrest you. They break open the door and they start shouting. Notice this. Go to videos and have a look on YouTube. They start shouting, they make a big noise. Why? Just to make a person, lose sense of what is happening. अचानक 25 लोग घर में आके चिल्लम चिल्ली हो रही, क्या हो रहा है? What do we do? What do we not do? That is basically to just leave them senseless so that they're not able to act. These are all planned. These are all tried. They have trained for this. So this is called shock and awe. This shock and awe is what happens. And this is where Allah says, we put the fear into the hearts. Rawat says, there were 1,000 people armed to the teeth, 3 times numerical superiority, numerous times military superiority. But Rawat says, the very soldiers who were numerically superior suddenly began to feel frightened. The commander said, what is wrong with you guys? Abu Sufyan's the centurion commander saying, you are superior in terms of military equipment, you're superior in terms of numbers. Why are you very scared? But we don't know, but we're frightened. We don't want to fight with them. Logistically and logically makes no sense to me. Refer to the Quran. Quran says, وَسَأُلْقِي فِي قُلُوبِهِمَ الرُّعْبِ. We will put fear into their hearts. अगर आप जो है वो कोई ईरान में जब आए थे ना बहजत जब जिंदा थे जो है मरहूम हो चुके जब कैद हयात में तो if you're gone you know what I'm talking about. You couldn't look at Ayatollah Bahjat into his eyes. You couldn't. हम तो उड़ान तो इनके जैसे थे ना. You sit and you talk to him, he looks at you, you can't look at him. Now he's an old man, 65, 70 in those days. You can't look at him. एक अजीब रोब है. You have to put your eyes down. You ask a question, he looks at you, you can't look, you have to look it down. Something overcomes you. The same defensive mechanism was given to the Holy Prophet. And the same defensive mechanism was used with the people of Badr to overcome their numerical inferiority with the opponents. So Allah jo hai wo ghaib se madad karta hai. Even in Surah Badr, the same word is used, Rabatna. But there it is used, Arbathu. Same thing, we strengthen their hearts. वहां जो है वो हमने strengthen hearts को strengthen किया, over here we're strengthening the hearts because they have moved in our way. We will support them. वरबतना अला कुलूबिहिम इज़ क़ामू. और जब वो क़याम किया उन्होंने कि हमें जो है we don't want to do idolatry, idol worship, shirk. We strengthen the hearts. Now they were able to take a decision. Let's leave everything out. Let's go towards the path of God. Let's run away. Staying over here, we'll have to worship the idols. We can't when there is one God. Money, fame, izzat, dawlat, shan, shaukat, everything will go to the winds. We are going out. God says, that trade I will deal with you now. हमने कबूल किया तुम्हारी जो है वो तुम्हारी तरफ से मामला, अब हमारे तरफ से मामला आप कबूल करें. You get me what I'm saying? So rabatna ala faqalu rabbuna. Now this is when they go into the cave. So I'm not able to show whether we'll reach a place because there is a time when there's a very interesting discussion. दो आयत जो है इंशाल्लाह आएंगी, which actually gives you such a specific description of what was in the cave. वो गार में क्या था, किस तरह था, साइज क्या थी, हवा, पानी, रहना करना, एवरीथिंग इज गिवन. अजीब सिलसिला है. And we come to that now. लेकिन यहां जो है जब वो पानी पी के पैर पैर धो के जब अंदर जाते हैं, अब जो है बैठे हैं, बस सब अपना अपना घोंसा ले लिया, they've taken one corner, says, then they begin to talk. एक मुकालमा होता है. A discussion takes place between them. You know, normally when you sit, you play sports, yeah, you get tired. Then what happens? Then you have pizzas, you have Coke. Then what happens? You just stretch out your legs and then you start chatting. That's what they were doing. Before resting, they were chatting. ये भी हमने थक कर सूरह दहर, सूरह इंसान, यतीम असीर मिस्कीन came. तो कुरान क्या कहता है? Quran says, it doesn't say what they said at that time was, the first night somebody comes, they give him, oh, thank you so much, you've given us your food. Says, La nuridu minkum jaza wala shukura. We don't want from you jaza, we don't want from you shukur. We don't want you, jaza means we don't want a compensation for the food that we're giving. We are not even wanting from you a thank you, wala shukura, no thank you. Why? Innama nut'imukum liwajhillah. We are doing this for God. If we're doing it for God, we will take from Him, we don't need from you. Correct? This is what happens in date. When you want to deliver, somebody has ordered and you have to supply it to some other third party. When you deliver it to that person, you don't take it from that person because somebody else has placed the order. It says, our dealing is with God. We've got nothing to do with you. You don't need to give us any compensation. Forget about compensation. We don't even want you to give us thank you. So the first person says, thank you. La nuridu minkum jazaan wala shukra. We don't want from you thanks. We don't want from you compensation. Second person, second day, fasting. Second person comes, food given. Thank you. La nuridu minkum jazaan wala shukura. Third person comes, food given. Hassanan and Hussein shaking because of lack of food. They're literally trembling. Then they'll give it out. La nuridu minkum jazaan wala shukura. We don't want thanks and compensation. And God says, you know why they kept saying this? It says, Innama nut'imukum liwajhillah. We are giving this for the sake of God. Now, this was said not at the time when the verse was being revealed. This was said before. But God says, you don't know the khulus in these words. ये अल्फाज में खुलूस इतना है और हमारे निस्बत इतनी मोहब्बत है कि we want to pick up the exact words and put it over here. देखो उनका क्या नजरिया है दीन की तरफ, देखो उनका क्या नजरिया है हमारी तरफ. See how they perceive us and try to be like them. So when certain sentences make massive impact to God, that it is very good for tarbiyat and for hidayat, He will pick up those very words and put them verbatim. What was the need for him to say, La nuridu minkum jazaan wala shukura? He could have said, they said that they don't want any compensation and reward because we are doing it only for God. But no, he actually picks up the same word. We don't want from you any compensation or any reward because we are doing it for God. God says, देखो समझो कितना खुलूस और मोहब्बत हमारे निस्बत है. This is what you need to emulate. ये इसी तरह है. Since तुम नहीं समझते, what is it to sacrifice a person's entire ministerial position? आप तो पॉलिटिक्स देखते हैं ना वेस्ट में, क्या क्या हुक्केबाजी होती है to just maintain on your seat. Who gives up his seat over here in political scenario? Nobody does. Let alone ministers who's just next in line after the king. That means probably defense secretary, defense minister, home minister, finance minister, the chancellor. These are the people. All of us say, I'm leaving this. God says, look at the talk. They're saying, Qalu Rabbuna Rabbur Rabbus. Our Lord is the Lord of the samawat and the earth, the heavens and the earth. Lan du'awa min dunihi ilahan. We will not call anybody except him as God, because then we'll be making a big mistake. Now, this entire discussion that is taking place between them, God, the entire discussion is putting over here. Ha'ula qawmuna, these people, ittakhadu min dunihi alihatan, they've taken gods other than Allah. Lawla yatuna alayhim bisultanin bayyin. They've not been given any authority by God to get a partner for him. فَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ افْتَرَى عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبًا. Who's more zalim than one who ascribes kidhb and lie to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then they're saying, إِذْ اعْتَزَلْتُمُوهُمْ وَمَا يَعْبُدُونَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Says now they're talking among themselves. So now you have decided, we have decided we need to separate from the entire community. اِعْتَزَلْتُمُوهُمْ وَمَا يَعْبُدُونَ. Move away from this community and from these people and the gods that they worship. Look, be careful. وَآوُوا إِلَى الْكَهْفِ. And take refuge in the kahf. يَنْشُرْ لَكُمْ رَبُّكُمْ مِنْ رَحْمَتِهِ وَيُحَيِّئْ لَكُمْ مِنْ أَمْرِكُمْ مِرْفَقًا. Now that you've decided to move away, rest assured, have that trust in God that He will sort out your affairs, He will give you rahmat, and He will sort out your affairs. इतना परवरदिगार आलम को ये जुमला और ये गुफ्तगू उनके दरमियान पसंद आ गई, God says, I'm going to pick it up and put it. Keep reading up to the day of judgment. भाई वो तो उनके दरमियान बातचीत हो रही है, हम हमें क्यों जबरदस्ती कर रहे पढ़ने के लिए और समझने के लिए? तुम नहीं समझते इसमें जो इखलास और खुलूस है हमारे दीन के निस्बत, हमारे दीन के निस्बत towards our religion, the ikhlas and the khulus and the steadfastness is there, is what you will require in Akhirul Zaman when Dajjal comes. You will have to be like these people if you want to save yourself. In those zaman it was Daqyanus. In your zaman it's going to be Dajjal. They force the people, he forced people to do shirk. Dajjal will force people to do shirk. They wanted people, Daqyanus wanted them to turn away from religion. Dajjal will want you to turn away from religion. You have to be like these Ashab-e-Kahf. They did not give in, you should not give in. ये सिर्फ स्टोरीज नहीं होती कुरान में, इसमें कोई हदफ होता है, मकसद होता है, मकसूद है, सिर्फ पढ़ के निकल नहीं जाना. जिस तरह उन्होंने मुकावमत की, हमें भी मुकावमत करनी जब दज्जाल आ जाए. Now we come to the other part, which is very interesting. This verse number 17 and number 18, I will probably only be able to deal with one of them. ये जो है ना, number 17 and 18 is very interesting. Because in these two verses, so now they've gone into the cave. They've gone into the cave, they've rested, they've talked. उनकी गुफ्तगू परवरदिगार आलम को इतनी पसंद आ गई, God took it and put it into the Quran. अब तो गुफ्तगू हो गई, अभी क्या किया जाए? अच्छा बहुत थके, थोड़ी देर लेट लिए, थोड़ी देर सो लिया जाए. तो wherever in that cave they were sitting, they stretched out. The dog went to the corner, to the entrance of the cave. Quran says, Basitun yadayhi, stretched out his paws, two legs behind, two legs waiting as guard. At that point of time, Allah sends Malakul Maut. Azrail, go take the soul. So the soul is taken, they go into sleep. They're into the cave. Now Quran says there'll be so many things that you need to know. They are in a cave. So I'm putting up the scenarios that you need to understand. And then in these two verses, 6 points about that cave is being mentioned. 6 nukte. Ajeeb nukte. 6 points about, actually he's describing that cave. कि क्या है, कैसे है, how they are sleeping, how they are surviving, how things are moving, how the elements of nature work, and how they are being protected. 6 points in 2 verses. But हम आपसे एक बात कहना चाहेंगे over here. These are individuals who are not even masoom. These are individuals who are centuries before that of the Holy Prophet. Or itna detail. Once we finish, you will see, oh, mashallah. Itna details, so many details. 6 points in 2 verses, and you will see, we will expand for you to understand. Kaise jo hai wo pura nizam, 309 years somebody is living. How Allah is saying, look what I've done in the cave. Look, when I say Inna Allah ala kulli shayin qadir, this is my qudrat. When you say Inna Allah bi kulli shayin alima, I know everything. This is my ilm working over here. I know what goes on in your body. I will suit things to suit that metabolism of your body. But कहने का मतलब over here is this, that these individuals centuries before the time of the Holy Prophet, these individuals directly not related to the Holy Prophet, but yet so much details. एक इशारा करना है एक नुक्ते की तरफ. These individuals nowhere related to the Holy Prophet. Centuries before the Holy Prophet, God goes to some extent to give details. But at the time of Holy Prophet, when the Prophet is migrating from Makkah to Medina, again an incident of the cave takes place. एक आयत में खुदा ने पूरे कज़ियों को रफा दफा कर दिया. वो जो कहते हैं ना कि ये इंसान जो है वो रसूल खुदा के साथ वो इतना बामर्तबत है कि कुरान की आयत नाज़िल हुई, खुदा ने कहा एक जुमले में एक आयत में तमाम रफा दफा कर लिया. तुम्हारा तो मकाम असहाब कहफ जितना नहीं है जिसके सिलसिले में हमने अपनी तफसील बयान की. तुम इतना जो है वो कह रहे हो कि इतना फजीलत है इन शख्स की जो है वो रसूल खुदा के साथ है, एक आयत में हमने तमाम कर दिया. तुम्हारा मुकायसा हमारी नजदीक परवरदिगार आलम के नजदीक, you are not even compared to Ashab-e-Kahf. Look at the explanation I give for Ashab-e-Kahf. You just pass in reference and move out. You have no value. in my eyes. So let's go to this one now. Look at the translation, and I will have to take it forward from you. It says, it's really ajeeb. Look at the first part. It says, وَتَرَى الشَّمْسَ إِذَا طَلَعَتْ تَزَاوَرُ. I don't think I'll just be able to speak 1 and 5 tomorrow. Look how he's starting off. وَتَرَى الشَّمْسُ. Now, he's talking about the entire location of the cave. And the 6 points as to how the cave, how he modified the environment of the entire cave to facilitate a sleep of 309 years without any problems. They are in a mountainous region. There are problems about food. There are problems about excretion. There are problems about wild animals. There are problems about insects. There's problems about ventilation. All these things and much more need to be made appropriate to enable these 7 individuals to survive for 309 years. 6 points in these 2 verses. Look at the first one and you will know. It says, وَتَرَى الشَّمْسُ. And you will see the shams إِذَا تَلَعَتْ تَتَزَاوَرُ عَنْ كَهْفِهِمْ ذَاتِ الْيَمِينِ وَإِذَا غَرَبَتْ تَقْرِضُهُمْ ذَاتَ الشِّمَالِ. Look at the translation before I tell you. And you might see, when you are in the cave and you're looking at the mouth of the cave, you will see the sun, when it rose, decline from the cave towards the right hand. Listen to the translation, then I will explain. And when it sets, leave them behind on the left, while they were in a wide space thereof. You will see the sun. So he's saying, now he's explaining what he's done. He's saying, if you were to be in that cave and you were looking at the mouth of the cave, you would see the sun rising from the right side and setting from the left side. That means if you have a look, if something is rising from the right and setting in the left, that means the mouth of the cave was facing towards the north. Correct? If you're facing the north, then the east is to the right and the west is to the left. Sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So now you're facing the cave from inside the mouth, and the sun is rising from there and setting over there. But there's a difference. He says, وَتَتَزَاوَرُ. This sun is doing the ziyarat of the cave in such a way that it's rising from here and setting over there, not rising in front. Meaning what? Meaning the light of the sun is not coming directly into the cave. They are inside the cave. The light of the sun is not coming directly into the cave. You go and research on the internet. When somebody is continuously exposed to the sun, certain changes take place in the body. Now this is scientific. Because Allah is inna Allah bi kulli shay'in alim, He's not talking science over here. It's saying I've selected the cave for them in such a way that the cave is facing the north. As a result of it, the sun rises in the east, sets in the west, rises from the right side, sets on the left side. The sun is never shining directly inside. You have a look. I've researched it. This is for 309 years. Ye koi 5-7 ghante ki baat nahi hai neem ki. This is 309 years. Look at the details God has gone to protect them from things so that they survive for 309 years. Continuous, and I made notes over here, continuous exposure on a protracted period of time to the rays of the sun damages the cellular DNA, which can lead to skin cancer. It's not 5 years. You shut the window. There is no window to shut. If there was a constant exposure to the sun without any movement from the cave or blockage, science is damaging cellular DNA, which can lead to skin cancer. It leads continuous exposure to the sun, leads to the drying of the skin, which then causes diseases. They have to live here for 309 years without any cancer, without any eczema, without any skin diseases. When you have constant exposure to the sun, and this you will see in India and Pakistan, those people who work in the field, they tend to age faster. They look older more, as opposed to individuals who work inside the AC offices. That's why you find a 65-year-old woman over here It looks much younger than a 65-year-old woman in India and Pakistan. That's because when they work outside, continuous exposure to the sun brings about premature aging. They're not supposed to age. They're not supposed to have skin diseases. They're not supposed to have skin cancer. Means they should not have exposure to the sun. We will identify a cave where the sun does not come inside. आप देखिए ये खुदा की कुदरत है, हाँ ये मौजज़ा है कुरान. हम सूरह काफ जो है वो पढ़ के ख़त्म कर देते, वो माशाल्लाह जो है आज के पारा ख़त्म हो गया. It's not that way. And what he's saying is, Quran is saying is that, look, the words are, لَتَتَزَاوَرُ, it does ziyarat. It visits, doesn't enter, visits and goes away. The sun doesn't come inside. وَهُمْ فِي فَجْوَةٍ مِّنْهُ. Riwayat tells us this fajwatin minhu means the interior of the cave was very different to the exterior. Last point and then we'll stop. So the cave was in such a way that the mouth looked small. But as you entered, fajwatin minhu, as soon as you entered, suddenly it expanded out. Somebody living for 309 years needs to have an appropriate level of ventilation to take place. In order for ventilation to take place, you do realize when you go to these professionally developed halls, you will find they always have high ceilings. High ceilings bring about, expansiveness brings about a natural element of ventilation. Says this cave looked very small from outside, but the moment you go inside, it suddenly expanded. 7 people are sleeping inside. Says we want them to sleep for 309 years. We've made arrangement. This cave is not a small cave. This is not Ghar Hira where only one person sleeps and does ibadat. This is for 7 people, and not just for 7 people. It has to accommodate them in such a way that there's appropriate ventilation, appropriate oxygen coming, 7 people breathing out carbon dioxide. And if there is no flow of oxygen, these people will die. We have to make sure that first, their skins and bodies are protected. Second, they have a sufficient level of oxygen for them to survive for 300 years. One method that we do is, as the air ventilation, a constant flow of oxygen that gives them appropriate levels of oxygen to survive for 309 years, despite the fact that in that place 7 people are constantly taking out carbon dioxide by means of respiration. ये खुदा है ताबिश भाई, इसको कहते हैं खुदा. ये हमारे ज़का नहीं होता. Those people who say ना कि बाय चांस ये हो गया, लकी से हम हो गया. खुदा के निज़ाम में लक नाम की कोई चीज नहीं है. In Khuda's domain there is no by chance. By chance is something is not planned and then it happens, you say it's by chance. If God is there, then he cannot be God. God ka kaam is meticulous. Everything is catered for. These people need to live for 309 years. The elements of nature, we have to give that body appropriate setup so that they can survive for 309 years. First, we will make sure direct contact with appropriate level of oxygen so that they don't die because of not having oxygen. We will make those arrangements because it is in our qudrat. We are in Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. This is just 2 points. In the next 4 points, you will see कैसे कैसे खुदा ने इंतजामात किए उनके साथ to facilitate this 309-year period. Then you say Quran is a mu'jiza. Then you say this book has come from God. Tanzilum and Azizul Hakim. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us tawfiq to understand and get the marifat of the Quran. And understand and get the ma'rifat of Allah. And ghafar Allahu lana wa lakum. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا نبي الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا علي أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا حسين الشهيد. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين، محمد بن علي، وجعفر بن محمد، وموسى بن جعفر، وعلي بن موسى، ومحمد بن علي، وعلي بن محمد الحسن. السلام عليك إمام الإنس والجان.